Most people know Pythagoras as the man behind a famous math rule, the Pythagorean theorem. It's that simple formula about triangles that nearly every student learns in school. But there's much more to Pythagoras than just math. In fact, math was only one small part of what he believed. He wasn't just a mathematician, he was a philosopher, a spiritual teacher, and a seeker of deep, hidden truths about the universe. Pythagoras believed the world around us wasn't just made of solid stuff like matter and objects. To him, everything in the universe was made of energy, of vibration and sound. He saw the universe as one big song, full of harmony, rhythm, and meaning. He taught that everything, even people and thoughts, had a unique vibration. And when those vibrations were in balance, we experienced peace and health. When they were out of balance, we felt pain or disorder. These ideas might sound strange now, but they were even more unusual back then. That's why Pythagoras kept his deeper teaching secret. He didn't write books or give public speeches about them. Instead, he formed a small group of students, a kind of private spiritual school where only the most dedicated people could learn these mysteries. To join his school, people had to go through years of silence, strict discipline, and inner work. It wasn't just about learning facts. It was about changing who you were on the inside. Pythagoras lived more than 2,500 years ago, around 570 BC, on a Greek island called Samos. But he didn't stay there. He traveled far and wide to Egypt, Babylon, and possibly even India, searching for sacred knowledge. He met with priests, mystics, and wise teachers. He learned their secrets, their traditions, and the ancient ways they understood life. Over many years, he collected teachings about numbers, music, the stars, the soul, and the hidden forces that shape our world. When Pythagoras returned to Greece, he didn't share this knowledge openly. He believed that most people weren't ready to understand it, and that some might even try to twist or misuse it. So he created a secret brotherhood. It was part science, part religion, part spiritual training center. Inside this school, students lived a simple life focused on truth, harmony, and self-discovery. They believed that by living in balance with nature and the cosmos, they could free their souls and reach a higher state of being. One of the core ideas in Pythagoras' teachings was that numbers weren't just for counting. He believed numbers were sacred, that they revealed the deeper structure of the universe. Each number had its own meaning. The number 1 represented unity, the source of everything. 2 stood for opposites and duality. 3 meant balance and harmony. 4 represented stability and order. To Pythagoras, numbers were like keys that unlocked the secrets of life. But he went even further. He believed that behind these numbers was vibration, the invisible energy that connects everything. In his view, the universe was alive with sound. He thought that all things, from stars to stones to thoughts, gave off vibrations. Music, he believed, was a reflection of this universal energy. It wasn't just something pretty to listen to, it was a tool for healing and spiritual growth. In his school, students were taught how to use music and sound to improve their health and expand their minds. They practiced chanting, played specific musical scales, and lived according to patterns of harmony and proportion. They believed that illness and suffering happened when a person fell out of tune with the universe. By listening to certain sounds and living in balance, they could bring themselves back into harmony. Because these ideas were so unusual, many people at the time didn't understand or accept them. Pythagoras and his followers often faced suspicion and rejection, but they kept going, quietly preserving and passing down their knowledge. They believed that true wisdom came through personal transformation, through discipline, silence, reflection, and connection to the deeper rhythms of life. Pythagoras didn't leave behind many writings. Most of what we know about him comes from his students and later philosophers. Much of his work was passed down through stories, symbols, and secret rituals. Over time, many of these teachings were lost, forgotten, or hidden. But bits and pieces remain in sacred geometry, in spiritual music, in modern ideas about energy and frequency. And today, as science explores new areas like sound healing, vibration therapy, and quantum energy, some of Pythagoras' ideas are coming back into view. One of the most beautiful and mysterious teachings from Pythagoras was the idea of the music of the spheres. To us today, that might sound poetic, like something from a dream or a fairy tale. But to Pythagoras, it was real. He believed that the planets and stars didn't move silently through space. Instead, they created a kind of music, not with instruments, but with their motion, their size, and their distance from one another. According to Pythagoras, each planet gave off its own tone, like a musical note. And together, these notes formed a great cosmic harmony, a symphony playing across the sky. We can't hear it with our ears, he said, because it's always been there, like background music that we grow used to and stop noticing. But even if we can't hear it, it's still shaping our world. This music, he believed, was the sound of the universe itself, pure, endless, and divine. Pythagoras taught that just as the planets needed to stay in their orbits to keep the harmony of the cosmos, we also needed to stay in balance within ourselves. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions had to be in tune with one another. If even one part of us fell out of sync, we would feel discomfort or confusion. But when we lived in harmony, when our body, mind, and spirit worked together, we could find peace and purpose. We could live in rhythm with the universe. To Pythagoras and his students, learning to feel this cosmic music wasn't just about knowledge. It was a path to awakening. Those who truly listened, not just with their ears, but with their hearts, could rise above the noise of the world. They could find a deep stillness and wisdom within themselves. They could connect with something greater, the divine pattern that runs through all things. This idea has inspired people for centuries. And now, as modern scientists and spiritual seekers begin to explore the power of sound, energy, and frequency, we're starting to rediscover what Pythagoras already knew: that everything is connected, that vibration is the foundation of reality, and that by tuning ourselves like musical instruments, we can live with more clarity, balance, and joy. What if everything in the universe, your thoughts, your emotions, your health, and even your future, was all connected through vibration? Imagine a giant invisible web made of energy and sound, linking everything together. In this view, nothing happens by chance. Your feelings, your struggles, and even your healing are connected to this larger pattern of energy. Everything is made of vibration, and that vibration shapes our entire reality. This idea wasn't just a fantasy, it was a real belief in the ancient world. One of the greatest minds who understood this was Pythagoras, a Greek philosopher and mathematician. To him, the universe was like a beautiful symphony. Every part of life, from the stars in the sky to the cells in your body, moved and vibrated with purpose and order. He believed that human beings, too, were instruments, ones that could fall out of tune, but also be retuned through sound and harmony. These sacred patterns were built into the places people lived, studied, and worshipped. Temples were carefully designed using special ratios. These buildings weren't just for shelter, they were meant to create a peaceful and uplifting energy. People believed that by being inside these structures, their minds and hearts would naturally rise to a higher state. Every wall, every doorway, every angle was made with meaning. It was like building a song out of stone, a quiet way of calling heaven down to earth. Music, too, was seen as a reflection of sacred geometry. Certain notes, like the octave, the fifth, and the fourth, came from simple mathematical ratios. To them, music wasn't just sound. It was the voice of the universe. Pythagoras, the famous philosopher and mathematician, taught that music and geometry were two sides of the same truth. When you played music based on these pure ratios, it could touch your soul and bring you into harmony with creation. Pythagoras believed that the soul itself was made of vibration and form, like a living pattern. If we lived out of balance with these sacred proportions, we would feel lost or unwell. But if we brought ourselves back into alignment, we could experience healing, clarity, and even spiritual freedom. The cycle of birth, death, and rebirth wasn't random. It followed sacred shapes like the circle, which symbolized eternity, and the spiral, which showed growth and evolution. His students studied these shapes with deep care. They weren't just learning math. They were trying to understand the structure of the entire universe. To them, nothing was without meaning. Every pattern, every line, every curve reflected something greater. This knowledge had power. Those who truly understood sacred geometry could use it to shape the world. They could build spaces that helped people heal. They could make music that woke up parts of the soul that most people never felt. They could move energy in ways that looked like miracles. But this kind of power wasn't for everyone. In the wrong hands, it could be dangerous. That's why Pythagoras shared his teachings only with people he trusted, those with a pure heart and honest intentions. Even today, we can see traces of this ancient wisdom. Look at the great cathedrals, mosques, and temples of the world. Look at the intricate mandalas of the East or the detailed carvings of ancient cultures. These aren't just pretty decorations. They are echoes of a deeper truth. But the real magic, the understanding that these patterns can change us, is hidden to most. It takes more than just looking. It takes feeling, remembering, and listening with the soul. To return to sacred geometry is to remember that we are part of something greater. Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, all of them shape our inner pattern. When we act with love, honesty, and awareness, we bring harmony to our soul. When we give in to fear, anger, or greed, we throw that pattern out of balance. The key is to live consciously, to pay attention, to listen for the quiet rhythms beneath the surface of life. When we meditate on a circle or a spiral, we're not just admiring a shape, we're connecting to the original song of the universe. The same pattern that makes a flower bloom or a star burn also lives within us. Pythagoras didn't want to control the universe with his knowledge. He wanted to become one with it. That's the real goal, not power, but unity. To feel yourself as part of the whole, to flow with the deep current of life, to become a note in the great cosmic song. This path isn't about blind belief or rigid rituals. It's about real practice. It starts with listening, not just with your ears, but with your entire being. Pythagoras said that to hear the music of the spheres, the quiet hum of the universe, you had to find deep inner stillness. Only when your mind is calm and your heart is open can you feel the universe vibrating inside you. There are many ways to begin this tuning process. One is through sound. Chanting sacred syllables or even humming with awareness can shift your energy. These sounds aren't random. They're carefully chosen to match certain parts of your body and soul. When used with intention, they can bring peace, clarity, and awakening. But just as powerful as sound is silence. In today's noisy world, silence is a rare and precious thing. But true silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a state of deep listening. It's where the noise of the mind quiets down and something deeper can be heard. Creating little moments of silence each day, even just a few minutes, can help you reconnect with the harmony inside. Sacred geometry also invites us to reconnect with nature. Pythagoras believed that nature was the purest expression of divine harmony. The rustling of leaves, the rhythm of waves, the crackle of fire, all of these are a part of the same song. When you walk in a forest, sit by a river, or gaze at the stars, you are bathing in the vibrations of the cosmos. Nature doesn't just surround you, It reminds your soul of its place in the great symphony of life. Awakening isn't something that happens all at once. It's a slow, steady process. Like tuning an instrument, it takes time, care, and love. You realign yourself little by little through your choices, your thoughts, your gestures. You start to notice the beauty behind the surface of things. You start to feel a quiet joy that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. And here's the most beautiful truth: you were never separate from the harmony. Even in your darkest moments, even when you felt broken or lost, the music was still playing. It never stopped. Awakening isn't about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you've always been. The teachings of Pythagoras survive not because they were written in books, but because they speak to something timeless inside every human heart. These teachings aren't just history. They're a call to remember the sacred order woven into all of life. They whisper to us in moments of quiet. They shine through when we see beauty, when we feel love, when we act with kindness. The world may try to drown out this song with noise and fear, but it can't erase it. The melody of truth is still playing. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it inside you. You are not just a listener. You are the music. You are the shape, the vibration, the living pattern. When you bring your life into harmony, you don't just find peace, you become a part of the divine orchestra, playing your role in the endless unfolding of creation. The forbidden teachings of Pythagoras were never truly forbidden. They were simply waiting for those with the courage and the heart to find them. They're still here, hidden in plain sight, in the patterns of leaves, the swirl of galaxies, and the beating of your own heart. You are the instrument. You are the song. And the universe is waiting for you to remember your part. To Pythagoras, music wasn't just a form of entertainment, it was a sacred science. Music could touch the soul, shift emotions, and even heal the body. Different tones and melodies had different powers. Some sounds could calm anger, others could lift sadness or give someone courage. His school used music as a way to balance the body and spirit, helping students feel clearer, lighter, and more connected to something greater than themselves. Pythagoras believed that when you are in harmony with the universe's sacred sounds, you can reach higher states of awareness. Just like the planets orbit in perfect patterns, our souls could also rise to higher levels when we align with the right frequencies. Music became a bridge between the seen and unseen worlds, between the physical and the spiritual. But this knowledge was considered very powerful, maybe even dangerous. In a world where many were ruled by fear and the need for control, Pythagoras was careful about who he taught. He believed that if the power of sound could heal, then it could also be twisted to harm. In our time, science is slowly catching up to these ancient truths. Researchers in fields like cymatics, the study of how sound creates patterns, have shown how vibrations shape physical matter. When you play sound through sand or water, beautiful and complex shapes appear. Quantum physics also tells us that, at the smallest level, everything is not solid at all, but is actually made of vibrating energy. These ideas echo what Pythagoras taught long ago, that the universe is alive with music, even if we can't always hear it. Though we may not consciously notice this cosmic music, it flows through everything: the air, the earth, our bodies, and the stars. It affects how we feel, how we think, and how we heal. Some people can tune into this hidden harmony more deeply than others. These people often describe moments of deep peace, insight, or even spiritual awakening when they feel completely at one with life. This is what Pythagoras was trying to teach, that we all have the ability to reconnect with this universal song if we learn to listen with more than just our ears. In ancient times, healing wasn't only about curing a sickness, it was about restoring balance to the whole person. To Pythagoras, illness came from being out of tune with the natural vibrations of the body and spirit. If your emotions were stuck, if your body was stressed, or if your thoughts were chaotic, it meant your inner music had lost its harmony. The cure wasn't harsh medicine or cutting, it was gentle sound, used to bring the body back into alignment. At his school, music was a daily practice. When someone was angry, soft and slow music was played to help them relax. When someone was sad, lively music could help them feel joy again. Students listened to music before bed to clear their minds and prepare for deeper, more peaceful dreams. In the morning, they used music again to energize the spirit and prepare for the day. It was like tuning an instrument before a performance, except the instrument was the soul. Pythagoras also believed that sound could physically affect the body. Different musical instruments were thought to stimulate different parts of the body's energy. The lyre, the flute, and even the human voice were used to shift vibrations inside the body. Some tones helped improve blood flow, others cleared emotional blockages. Today, modern healing systems like acupuncture or chakra therapy talk about energy lines and centers in the body, concepts that sound a lot like what Pythagoras taught thousands of years ago. Even the places where healing happened were designed carefully. Temples were built using sacred geometry, shapes, and patterns believed to hold deep spiritual meaning. These temples were created to echo and amplify healing sounds. Everything inside them, including the silence, was considered part of the healing process. The quiet between the notes allowed the vibrations to settle, bringing peace to the body and mind. But for Pythagoras, healing went beyond just fixing the body. He believed the soul could also carry pain, confusion, and negative energy. These spiritual problems couldn't be solved with herbs or surgery. They needed to be transformed through sound. Through singing, chanting, and even movement, people could release their emotional pain and rise to higher levels of consciousness. It was about tuning not just the body, but the entire being, mind, heart, and soul. He taught that emotions and thoughts had their own vibrations. Fear vibrates very differently from love. Anger and wisdom create totally different energy. By becoming more aware of their inner vibrations, people could learn to shift their emotional state. This wasn't just spiritual belief, it was a practical system of self-awareness and healing. Pythagoras gave his students the tools to master their own energy, to create peace within themselves. In some rituals, people chanted sacred syllables, letting the sound rise from deep inside and merge with the music around them. Others used body movement, dancing in rhythm to awaken energy stored in their muscles and bones. Everything had a purpose. Every sound, every silence, every shape was part of a bigger plan, to bring the inner world of the person back into harmony with the outer world of nature and the cosmos. Now, in modern times, we're starting to remember this ancient wisdom. Sound healing practices like binaural beats, solfeggio frequencies, and crystal bowls are growing in popularity. Even science is exploring how certain frequencies can affect the brain, the heart, and even the cells. Studies show that sound can reduce stress, improve sleep, and help the nervous system relax. What Pythagoras once taught in secret is now being studied in labs. But the greatest truth he shared is still often overlooked. Real healing isn't just about listening to nice music. It's about realizing that you are part of the music of the universe. Your body is an instrument. Your mind is an echo of cosmic thought. And your soul is a note in a song that never ends. When you begin to tune yourself to live in harmony with truth, love, and balance, you don't just feel better. You become better. You remember who you really are. Pythagoras also believed in something called sacred geometry. To him, numbers and shapes weren't just tools for math, they were symbols of life itself. Shapes like the triangle, square, and pentagon weren't invented by people. They were found in nature, in the way flowers grow, in the pattern of seashells, and in the structure of your body. Each shape held a certain energy, a kind of spiritual message. The triangle, with its 3 sides, symbolized balance and harmony. The square stood for stability and the material world. The pentagon, which holds the golden ratio, represented life and growth. Pythagoras and his students didn't just look at these shapes, they meditated on them. They believed that by focusing on these forms, they could tune into deeper truths about the universe and about themselves. In their meditations, they didn't just imagine the shapes, they felt them. They listened for the inner resonance each shape carried. They believed that by understanding the geometry of the universe, they were also learning the geometry of the soul. Everything was connected: music, shape, number, and life. Today, we are beginning to see these connections again. Architects, artists, and healers are returning to the idea of sacred geometry. People are learning that the spaces we live in, the sounds we hear, and the thoughts we think all affect our energy and well-being. We are rediscovering what Pythagoras knew long ago, that we are not separate from the universe. We are the universe, singing, vibrating, and unfolding in endless harmony. Long ago, some people believed that shapes and patterns held a secret power. They thought that by focusing on these shapes, like circles, triangles, and spirals, they could bring their soul into harmony with the universe. This idea, known as sacred geometry, wasn't just about making beautiful designs. It was about tuning your inner self to match the deep rhythms and order of life itself.